What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Christian Hanna Horror back here again. Before I start this video, I've got some great news. I have joined a podcast. It's called Silver Shamrock Radio. I'll have the link for the description for that channel down below. We're going to be doing horror topics, mostly Halloween topics, which is going to be great because we've got so much stuff to talk about with the new Halloween film coming up. We're going to be doing interviews. It's going to be great. It's mainly hosted by Darnell Weeks, the Myers Fan 25, and he was gracious enough to ask me to be a part of it. And I've been we've already got one episode up, and it's been so fun. And I hope you guys will go and check that out because I'm really enjoying it. So I have the link for that below, and we'll talk more about that as we get more. All right. So today I wanted to do a fun video, and I want to do something different. Every time I rank something or I talk about this, I usually say I'm not going to say which films I think are the best to worst. I'm going to say what my favorites are to least favorites. We're going to do something different today for the Friday the 13th franchise that I thought that some of you might like. I'm not going to do what I think is my favorite to least favorite. I'm actually going to try to rank these from what I personally think is the worst to the best as far as which movie's the best made and things like that. And I'm going to be brutally honest about this, and some of you are going to be like, wow, I don't want you to see, I'm doing this so you see that I'm not as jaded as I seem to be when I say, Jason Takes Manhattan's my favorite one. So here we go. Like I said, this is going to be ranking the Friday the 13th franchise, from which movies I think are the worst to the best. So here we go. And here we go. We're starting off with Jason Takes Manhattan. When you really scratch under the surface of this thing, you see that it's a very flawed film, and it's a very, not poorly made film, but I think the budget was stretched pretty far, and things could have looked a lot better and done a lot better in this movie, unfortunately. But not to say I don't like it, but to be honest with you, I do think it is the worst made one out of the franchise. Which is kind of weird for me to say that, isn't it? Next, I did put the original Friday the 13th here, and not to knock the film, just, quite honestly, compared to the production and the look and the style of the rest of the films, I think this one's just a little more primitive than the rest. And, while Tom Savini did an insanely good job, I don't think Sean Cunningham's ever claimed to be a great director, and I think he would be the first to admit that. Not to knock him at all. I just think that maybe if this movie would have had a more experienced and a better director, this film would not be so low on the list for me. But I do see some issues with Friday the 13th that do bother me a little bit. Not to say this movie is bad, but I think the production could have been a little bit better. Okay, the next one I have is A New Beginning, and I love this movie, but the weird style of the filmmaking, and even though I love it, and the tone of the film, and just some of the shots and the scenes and the way things looked, is a little cheesy. And I know it's supposed to be. This is 80s horror, but like I said, we're doing what I think is from the worst to the best made movies. So unfortunately, this one is low on my list for that reason. But obviously, I absolutely adore this movie. Next is actually going to be Part 3. And now some of you are going, whoa, we love Part 3. I love Part 3 too. And I think my reasoning for this being, number 4 is from the, worst to best is maybe it's just the 3D, the way the 3D filmmaking was done back then is just honestly just extremely dated, and it just has to come across really cheesy when you see the wires on the snakes and everything. Back in the day, I'm sure it scared the hell out of people, but today, it is a little goofy, So to me, it suffers a little bit as far as the production goes, things like that, because of the the era of the 3D filmmaking back here. But still a great film. Alright, next is Friday the 13th Part 2. From here on out, the complaints really are less and less. I don't really see any terrible flaws in this movie. If anything, Friday the 13th Part 2 was probably one of the scariest installments, in my opinion. The characters were good, and the look of the film it really felt like part one as far as the look and the feel of the film, just a better version. And I think that came with the director, Steve Miner, and I think he had a great touch on this film. So because of that, I do enjoy this film a lot. I think if Steve Miner would have directed the first one, it would have felt more smooth and together. It almost felt like scenes in Friday the 13th, as opposed to Friday the 13th Part 2. It really felt like a long, continuous story where everything just smoothed right into each other. So, love Part 2. Next, I have Jason Lives. I love Jason Lives. I think the story is good on it. I think it feels like a fun act. This is like an action horror movie, which is great. I think the production was great on this, and Tom McLaughlin just did a great job. I really think he did a great job, especially with what he had. Nothing in this movie looks cheap. Everything looks good in this movie, and for that, it's high up on my list. Okay, so we're down to my last two. So obviously, these last two I highly regard. The New Blood. This movie just looks great. It sounds great, and it feels great, and it has that 80s pop to it, that look and everything, and you got the bridges going down and everything, and it just looks huge. You got a house exploding. I mean, it feels like a big film, and for that, I love it. The makeup looked great on Jason. The characters were great. Everything about this movie looked and felt great to me. And it just felt like a cut above from a lot of the series. So that's why I do have The New Blood high up on my list. And my number one, from worst to best, meaning this is the best, is honestly the final chapter. This movie is just a knockout for me. It's scary. The music's great in it. The characters are all good. They all have a distinct personality, and they're all believable. They're all people you could be friends with. And Jason looks killer in this movie. The character of Jason is kind of more straightforward, just pure evil, but with malice, a little bit of malice, not too much malice to where he's running around and shaking and everything, but enough malice where you see the intent and the evil in this. And nothing, once again, like everything, even the kills in this movie had scare to it. It wasn't just fun like in some of the other Friday the 13th where heads are blowing up and balloon poppers going in people and stuff, even though I do like that in Part 7. But this one, everything was just intense and scary and edge of your seat. So because of that, I do think that Friday the 13th, the final chapter, is the best one in the franchise. So as you can see, what I think is what I think from what I think is the worst to the best made films in the franchise varies differently from what my favorites are. But I thought that would be fun so you can really see the difference in my frame of mind. And I'd love to see what you guys think is the worst to best films production-wise and just the look of the film-wise. Not necessarily your favorites, but what you genuinely think are the worst to best made films. I'd love to hear your guys' choices. It'd be great if you make a video to this. We'll check it out. But that's going to be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Tell me what you guys think in the comment section. Once again, links will be in the description box for the Silver Shamrock Radio. Hope you guys check that out. And we love y'all. Have a great day.